We're live again? This is great. All right. BBR Productions YouTube channel, live lesson Monday through Friday. Today we are telling you how you can succeed at what it is you want to do, specifically in the entertainment industry. And we're going to go over 4 elements that really will help dictate your ability to succeed. Of course, it's the value of how much effort you put into these 4 elements and ultimately how much you care about the results. Now, more importantly, everything we talk about on this channel is about the process, understanding the process that leads to the results. And if we focus on process and we put energy and time in the process, we will get the results. But if you focus on the results, you will not see the same energy. For example, if you go, well, if I have a CD, I make money. So you focus all your energy on making a CD, but then when the CD is done, no one's interested in it. It's because you didn't put any time into the process, which is network market practice, managing your time, money, and people around you, using your entrepreneurial brain to think outside the box, et cetera, et cetera. So today we're going to talk about 4 elements of process. And as always, I'm Thomas J. Beleza, so please like, comment, and share this video along with subscribing for future content on how to be successful in your career, specifically with the entertainment industry. Let's get right into it, shall we? All right. Why you can succeed in your career. What we talk about on this channel is all about changing your brain, because if you change your brain, you change the game. These 4 elements, and I'll just label them real quick: funding, ideas, team, and timing, all work in unison. There's a value to putting effort into each of these. However, if you rely on only one of them or 2 of them or 3 of them, you will not find the same amount of success or the same level of success. They all kind of work together in a way to maintain. They basically create success, they create longevity, and they help fuel your purpose being whatever it is you want to do. So when we get to funding, you have to think to yourself, you need to be able to afford opportunity, right? And by the way, we're going to get down to timing. So funding, ideas, team, timing. We're going to get to timing, but opportunity is all about timing. But it's also about who you know, and it's about what kind of values you bring to the table, right? So you need to be able to afford these opportunities. If you don't have funding, and we'll talk about that in a second of how you get funding, right? If you don't have funding for your career, your ideas don't have anything to stand on. You can't market them. You can't get into people's ideas to people. Your team, what kind of value can you bring to the team? What does that mean? It means like, well, are you able to work on stuff? Are you not able to work on stuff? Are you always working a job just to pay your bills, et cetera, et cetera? And timing. If you can't say yes, then there's no timing, right? Okay. So funding, you need to be able to afford your opportunities. So one very powerful tool you can do to make that happen is have a financial foundation of 18 months minimum. The financial foundation is basically taking your average monthly overhead and multiplying it times 18 months minimum. Okay. So if you have a, let's say, $2,000 monthly average overhead, right? What's 2,000 times 18? 36,000. If you have $36,000 in your business checking account, because your career is a business, if you have 36,000 into your business checking account, you can now start taking chances, calculated chances, more importantly. You'll be able to say yes to things, right? Okay. With that said, though, everything you do must affect everything you do. So the reason we have this financial foundation is exactly for what I said, to afford the opportunities. Having the money allows you to focus some energy on ideas, put time, creative time into it, put time into building and cultivating relationships to establish a strong team. And by the way, a team doesn't mean that they're working for you. It means that you're working with, everybody's working together, right? Work, grow, and rise together. And then, of course, you afford the right to take opportunity when it presents itself at the right time. When it comes down to actually putting money into a venture, for example, let's say you want to film a movie or record an album or write a book, okay? You want OPM, other people's money. Yeah, that's right. Rule number 1 in investing, rule number 1 in wealth, all right, generation, generating wealth is we do not spend or invest our own money. Why is that? Because we always want this foundation working for us. And I've talked about it in the past. I want the green one. We'll use the black one. I've talked about it in the past. Is that all right? You want your 18 months, okay? 18 months. Oh, you can't really see that, right? Boop 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 boop. I'll do it again. You want 18 months of foundation, okay? And then you want to have a secured 3 to 6 months safety net in that. So basically, as long as you have 3 to 6 months of money in your foundation, you could do your 3 needs of purpose, which is security, security, growth, and can't really read it because I'm just scribbling it. Security, growth, and dream. All right. And also you want to create the emergency fund from this money. Because by having this 3 to 6 months minimum in your foundation, you can do the 60-40 split, which means you can take 60% and divide it evenly into security, growth, dream, and your emergency fund. And then you can take that other 40% and put it back into your foundation. So basically, every time you make money, you're reorganizing it back into surviving your life, right? Affording your life. Okay. After you realize that the foundation is needed to afford you opportunities, you're a creative person. Maybe you're a business person, right? Business people are creative in the sense that they create businesses. Ideas. To be fair, there are a million ideas, but are the ideas that are being created or you're creating solving problems or adding value to people's lives? All right. And not just this is entertaining or hey, I wrote this song. It's awesome, amazing, unique. It's going to change the world. It could be the greatest song in the world, but if there's 60,000 songs being uploaded to Spotify per day, you're a dime a dozen in a sea of many. Right? If you look at your ideas as your way in, you're doing it wrong. Ideas, products, the things we make aren't necessarily the things that lead to success. That's our reward time. That's the stuff we get to do as creatives. So ideas, if you can afford, if you have the funding to afford your life, you have the foundation, et cetera, this is your creative time. So, but this line, a dime a dozen in a sea of many, if you're just focusing on the creative side, think about that. You're a dime a dozen in a sea of many. Doesn't mean don't create. It means create all you want, but earn the right to spend time on that creation, right? Like John Wick. John Wick was more than an action film. We needed change, right? Everything was the same. Everything was a superhero movie. Everything was, and John Wick brings back like that 80s flair, that 80s action flair kind of genre, but puts a little twist on it, right? And the way they filmed it and what they focused on with it was just different because the timing of it and the team involved and how they utilized the funding led them to create John Wick. So everything worked in its favor when it came out, and that's why it was a massive hit. It had everything. It had the right funding, it had the right team, the right timing, and the idea was adding value. It was changing ultimately what it is we were used to at the time. Okay. Now, let ideas form from the top to the bottom, basically solve problems or add values. When you're thinking of ideas, creative ideas like writing a book, a song, things like that, think about what it is you're trying to say, right? Think about what is the purpose of this thing. If it's just, this is a great story, I'm just going to release it, you're not necessarily saying anything, right? Creative types have to have something to say. They have to have value in their words. They have to be more than a thing. Like I can't just sell cups and be like, this cup is awesome. Like, what is my company? Why do people want to come to my company to buy my cups? Now, to be fair, cups are needed, right? They solve a problem. I need the drink out of the cup, right? I needed that too. All right. But if you're trying to sell your cup over everyone else just buying a regular cup or glass at the store, there has to be something about your brand, something about your idea that is adding value. Maybe if someone buys your cups, a portion of the proceeds goes to a movement, let's say like a cancer foundation, right? Maybe if somebody, maybe the people who design your cups are kids, right? Or special needs kids, and it's like a program that you created, and it's for special needs to make money, to feel like they're contributing to the society, and they get to also be creative, and and now your cups, you know what I'm saying? Like they're not just cups; they have purpose. All right. So ideas by themselves are just a dime a dozen, a sea of many. Allow your ideas to start from the top and then figure out the bottom. What that means is, what problem are we solving, which is the end result, or what value do we want to add to the world, and then work back to the bottom, which is where you have to start as far as designing or creating that item. Okay, team, team. We are the value. Okay, we are the value of those we surround ourselves with. There's an old saying: the five people you surround yourself with become the world you live in. So we are the value of those we surround ourselves with. And you have to think to yourself, am I around people, right? We talk about the circle of influence often on this channel. The circle of influence is not about people who could influence your career. They influence good habits. You see them doing things that inspire you to do it like they are. If you want to be a wealthy person, hang out with wealthy people. You'll start finding out what their habits are, how they look at things, how they spend their money, and all these. And they may also mentor you. But the point is, if we surround ourselves by people that elevate, in fact, how do you elevate the people around you? And are you elevating the people around you? Or are the people around you elevating you? And if that isn't happening, if it isn't a synergetic relationship where no one's elevating each other, you might be in the wrong circle of influence. Your team might not have value. Okay. And it's all right to say to ourselves, maybe I should really evaluate the people I spend time with. Doesn't mean don't talk to them anymore, but it means that I have a mission in life. I want to be in the entertainment industry, quote unquote, right? So let me hang out with people that are in the entertainment industry. But more importantly, let me hang out with people in the entertainment industry that are taking their career seriously like a business, and not necessarily like, well, if it happens, it'll be great. That mentality will be the value you are hitting. That's your glass ceiling. If you're around people that go, well, I'm a waiter, or I work at the gym, or I work at the front desk of a hotel, and if my music career happens, great. If my acting career happens, great. If my book sells, great. That is your glass ceiling. That is the value of that mentality. Is that inspiring? No, but if you know someone, you go, how are you doing what you're doing? And they're like, oh, well, I saved up 18 months of my overhead. I lived with my parents for a while, or I decided not to pursue my career and focus on 3 jobs or 2 jobs, and just saved as much money as possible. And as soon as I had my 18 months, I quit my job and I focused all of my energy on the career industry that I was interested in. I volunteered my time. I got involved in companies, whatever. I didn't care if it was free or not, because I was able to live for a year and a half and afford it. And I adjusted my budget so I wasn't living on a lifestyle budget. I was living on a livable budget. I was living because I was waiting until my career my foundation allotted me to adjust my overhead budget to afford my living, which is now an enhanced living, which would turn into ultimately your lifestyle, right? You see how that thinking will go, wait, if you could do it, why can't I do it? That's great. And if you're around enough people like that, it will inspire you to think like that. It will change your brain. If you're around musicians that go, hey, yeah, you gotta play shows, write songs, and release albums, you're gonna be influenced to think, I gotta play shows, write songs, and record albums. If you're around 6 or 7 or even 10 other bands, and those bands are telling you, yeah, you gotta write songs, record albums, and play shows, that's how you become successful. But every member in those bands literally have a day job, a survival job that has nothing to do with the industry. They either work at a grocery store, they work at a McDonald's, they work at a car dealership, whatever the case may be. How is what they are saying even valuable advice? What they're doing is, well, if the song or the album or a show is how we kick off from that and something happens, great. I could quit my day job or my survival job, focus on that. But the truth is, if you get signed, It doesn't change overnight. You're not, boom, oh, I'm a multimillionaire, right? You still have to have this financial foundation to afford you the opportunity to go on tour for 3 to 6 months. You can't go on tour for 3 to 6 months if you have a job. And when you get signed, you'll see that that advance is to afford for a studio or afford for some marketing. And when you look down at it, there's 5 people in the band or 4 people in the band, and let's say you only get $60,000. 60,000 divided by 4 or even 5 is not a lot of money, right? So you're like, well, I got to keep my job until something happens. But now your record label goes, we got to put you on tour. And you go, I got to go on tour. And your job goes, how long? And you go, 3 to 6 months. And your job goes, well, you don't have enough vacation time. You're fired or you got to quit. So afford your overhead. But in that situation, all those people that are surrounding you, all those bands, which I have been in that situation, are telling you, just do shows, record albums. They're not telling you to start getting involved in the industry. They're not telling you to get involved with people of higher status. And higher status doesn't necessarily mean that they're super, super successful. It just means if you're surrounded by people doing exactly the same thing you are doing and no one is elevating over the course of, say, 3 to 5 years, you have to change your people, your team. Okay, so team, as we said, we are the value of those we surround ourselves with. So if their mentality is a very specific way, that's the mentality you're going to have because you won't know any different. Even if you did research and you're like, oh, hey, I did some research and I saw that like Clint Eastwood started as a background actor. That's crazy. How did Clint Eastwood started at Central Casting, and then your friend who's also an actor goes, no, 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 no. That's you don't do that. What you do is you just take acting classes, right? And you just do acting classes. You pay to see agents. You get a reel, so you do a lot of non-union stuff, and you just do, and then eventually, but try to get like meaty, thick roles. It's all about getting the lead roles. None of that is positive advice. None of it. So now that one friend, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 friends tell you something different than what you found out and researched about the acting industry, of course you're going to be like, well, they're all these people are doing what it is I want to do, but they're literally doing the same thing you're doing. They're working a survival job and they're barely making it in their industry. So the team you want to be around, by the way, again, if you say to someone, let's focus on building a financial foundation, and they go, no, you want to be around people that have adaptability, execution, and elevation. The people you surround yourself need to be able to adapt. If you tell them new information, their job is not to say no. People that tell you no, or you don't know what you're talking about, and you have the knowledge or the expertise or the new information that is different than what they have believed their whole life because they didn't research it enough, or the only people telling them what to do were the people doing literally the same thing. Their value was based on the people they surrounded themselves, and now some new idea is coming. If they can't even attempt to adapt to it, meaning let me research it, meaning let me look into it, meaning let me ask questions. You need that in a teammate. And a teammate, remember, isn't somebody that works for you. It's the people we surround ourselves with. The execution is if you are working with people and you say, can you do X, Y, and Z? And they say yes, and they're able to execute it, great. If they say yes, and then they say, I've been working on it, but haven't, or they're making up excuses why they didn't get it done, bad teammate, okay? Cannot work with people that are not adaptable or able to execute. But more importantly, how do they elevate? Are you able to elevate them? And are they able to elevate you? It has to be a two-way street. And by the way, elevating doesn't mean insanity of growth. Like it doesn't mean, oh, well, being around them, they're teaching me everything. Like it doesn't have to be, one person could be filled with knowledge and the other person could be filled with action. Action elevates. Are they able to adapt and execute to the knowledge base? Or somebody could be a planner and you know what I'm saying? Like as long as everybody's working in unison. Another thing about team, to build your team, you got to get involved to be seen, be present, which means you have to be able to afford the opportunities to get involved, to volunteer your time, to work in that industry. right? Because if you have to work a day job 40 hours a week and like there's events going on during the day, and by the way, you can't be like, well, I'll just take off. I'll just take off for the day and go. It's not about one day. It's about consistently being involved. If you went to an event, what do? You meet at least 10% of the people there. You get a phone number or an email. And then the next day starts the 1 to 3 day follow up, and you follow up with them and set up a lunch. So it's not one day. And then you have that lunch and you talk and you talk and you don't talk about yourselves or like working together or having them hiring. You just talk. You get to know each other. Then you do your follow up. Your rotation communication. In 2 weeks from that point, if you do not interact with them or hear from them again, you contact them again within 2 weeks. You got to be able to get involved. And by contacting them, it's let's set up another lunch, right? Okay. What value sets do you bring to the table? That's also important. When you're trying to figure out your team, like the people you want to surround yourself with, you have to think, are you just getting something out of it? Are you the one benefiting? Are you the one that's taking advantage of their resources, time, education, things like that? If so, you're a horrible, horrible, horrible human being. And the truth is, we are supposed to add value to one another. If you're an entertainer and you just want to gain success from others, really, really reevaluate yourself, okay? Think about what value sets you bring to the table. What are your abilities? What are you capable of? What are your educations? Things like that. Your skills, tools, etc., etc. Now, these three things lead us to timing. Timing is actually one of the most important aspects of these four. However, we can't have timing without the ability to afford opportunity, ideas that solve and or add value, okay? And either we are a part of a team or a team has accepted us in, so ultimately a part of a team, that has a value, okay, that increases the value, that allows for these timing opportunities. Timing is essential for success. Timing is what you have to offer, okay, is what you have to offer ready to be received by your audience, okay? So think about that. Is what you have to offer ready to be received by your audience? The timing is John Wick, right? The audience was ready to receive it. They wanted that new world. They wanted that old school 80s action film with a new twist, a new style, a new look, right? Okay, and then after that movie came out, Atomic Blonde, and everybody started filming like, John Wick style. And by the way, it was written and directed by two stunt doubles, both of which I believe worked on The Matrix. At least one of them worked on The Matrix. But anyway, my point is timing. What is what you have to offer ready to be received by your audience? So again, if you're a writer and you write a book and you go, this book is great, right? And then you put it into a dime a dozen in a sea of many, right? Let's say it's a vampire book, and Twilight just came out, so everyone's looking for vampire books, right? But let's say uh, it's a book about it's a crime thriller, but now vampires are huge because of Twilight. Your timing is not good. That thriller might not be good. However, if you can afford the opportunity because you can afford the funding, you could start getting involved with teams in that industry and allow your ideas to start elevating others in that industry through the team. And then they say, you know what, we could put time and money into this because it also might be something different. But that again comes to timing. It might be at the end of the vampire phase where everybody's like, oh, vampire, vampire, vampire. It might be at the end. That's timing. Okay. But waiting that long and just continuing to build your value within that community, you still need to afford your opportunities, which means you have to have that foundation, right? Okay. Be able to say yes to opportunities. Timing is once in a lifetime, right? Oh, I'm looking for that once in a lifetime thing. It's all about who you know, right? Right? They say that to you. Well, be able to say yes to opportunities. If someone comes to you and says, can you do this? And your thought is like, oh, can I do it? Can I take off? Do I have enough time to take off? Well, how long will it take? Why? Well, because I have a job. Oh, well, we need you to work on this now. Yeah, but I got to work. Okay, no problem. And they'll be nice and cordial. But what you just did was your value set was you are not available. You are not available. They may like you still. They might think highly of you, but they know they can't ask you. because you have a job. You have a job. Now, when they think of we need X, Y, and Z, they can't think of you because you have a job and you already said no. Now, you should be able to say no to things that you don't want to do or things that aren't brand related. Like obviously, don't do things that don't influence your brand's value. If you have a brand, your missions, morals, and ideologies, stick to them. Like, don't do projects, don't work on things that go against or conflict with your brand, your value sets, right? Your internal values, right? However, you need to be able to say yes with your brand. And if you can't say yes, they're going to say no to you next time. Meaning, no, they can't do it. They have a job. Or no, I asked them 3 times and 3 different times and they weren't able to do it. Okay. Timing, solving problems when they are needed. That's another thing. Okay. Think about the way, like Dennis Miller came, I give my age away. Dennis Miller as a comedian came in with political comedy, and it was just really that era, the Reagan era and stuff like that. And he was really something that was needed. He was solving a problem. He was bringing perspective and observation to what we all were thinking, and he gave voice to that. That's an example of what's going on. Andrew Dice Clay, by the way, is an example of, wow, he was something different. We just wanted somebody that was just pure, just unhindered, lack of restraint, just saying whatever he wanted to say. Then after a while, his timing flopped, and he got basically no one cared anymore, and they were like, "Get out of here!" And he had to go on Arsenio Hall, and he cried, and which is fine, he was supposed to have emotions. And people were like, "No, you're too mean. You're a sexist. You're this. You're that. You're this." And he had to work on changing his brand, but he never reached that same height, pinnacle, right? So think of that. All right. So funding, ideas, team, and timing. Why you can succeed is if you allow yourself to have that funding, either through 18, definitely have your 18 months minimum before you even start your venture. Everything you do must affect everything you do. So allow your planning to influence these things, which will afford you opportunity. And if you're going to do something, make sure you have other people's money to invest in those ideas. Your ideas should not be your sole focus. Your ideas should be the reward of what you do, but your ideas should also solve a problem and or add value to something. And by the way, they don't even have to be your ideas. You could just get involved, team, with other people's ideas that solve a problem or add value. It doesn't always have to be about you. All right, you can allow others to get involved. Okay. Make sure your team is very much a part of the value. Are you all adding value to each other? Are you working on projects that is about the team, or are you just like, well, I'm going to work on this because I get to be a lead actor or actress, and that's all that matters. And then as soon as you're done, you don't even care. Like, well, I'm not going to help with the marketing. I'm not going to help with anything. I did my part. You don't add any value to that. Okay. And your timing. Remember, you can't have timing if you can't afford the funding. So before we go to, I'm going to give a couple examples for actors, writers, musicians, and producers, basically how to utilize this and what it would look like. I can need that water. Okay. But before I do that, remember to like, comment, and share this video along with subscribing for future content on how to be successful in your career, specifically in the entertainment industry. Now, the reason we like to share is because we share knowledge. This is free. I do this because I just want the knowledge to be out there to help people change their brain, right? Change your brain to change the game. And we do that because if we elevate the people around us, it allows us opportunities to work together, grow together, and rise together. So share this and give people opportunity to learn. And the misconceptions that we are given in this industry can be kind of pushed aside, and we learn, oh, it takes a little bit more than I wrote a great song. Okay. So let's get to this. So think of Airbnb. Airbnb, which is a business, okay, they started during a recession. Timing. They had the funding to work on the app. They got the funding to work on the app. So they had funding. The timing was impeccable because it started in a recession, which helped people earn extra money, which their idea solved the problem. During the recession, people needed money, so they were able to use their own house or property as an Airbnb, which allowed them to make some money. And the team involved in getting that funding worked wonders. Okay. But they also turned the people that dealt with the Airbnb as a part of their family and team. So people were like, oh, yeah, I'm making extra money doing this Airbnb thing. And then people are like, oh, let me look into it. And therefore, they grew their team. A team doesn't necessarily have to be directly related to you. A team is like, not that OnlyFans is the way to go, but OnlyFans, the website gives you 5% of anyone who uses your sponsor number to start up OnlyFans, which is team mentality. Use my sponsor number and I'll get 5% of all the money you ever make, but I'll show you how to build your OnlyFans. And it's not just porn, but it's like 90% porn. But my point is they created that team mentality, all right? So let's look at actors, writers, musicians, producers, comedians, etc., performers, entertainers. Funding is essential for an entertainer so you can say yes to things not because you have to pay bills, but because you want to. Funding, all right, affords you opportunity. Funding, you have to think of, may I get involved in this? How can I get involved in this? Am I able to get involved in this because I want to, not because I have to pay my bills? Because a part of your career is based on your brand. If you, I use nudity in females as a really great example because not every woman wants to get naked on the screen, but the majority of people that get pushed into these roles are women. They're like, can you show your breast, right? So I tell my women client, I go, if you don't want to get naked, don't get naked. But if you don't have a foundation or can't afford your bills, you have to say yes to that work. Not only, and which is terrible, not only is nudity extremely well paid, which is tempting, right? You're like, well, even if I just did nudity as a background, I'm going to get $1,000 just for like 8 hours of work. It's extremely, extremely tempting. But now you did it, which means you can't not do it. I mean, you cannot do it again, but you've done it. It's in your brand, So if you want to be, something comes up later in the future and they go, hey, you want to do this family friendly thing? You sign a contract, you can't do, anything nude wise or, and they're like, oh, I did this thing well, sorry. It happens all the time. Okay. So by having the funding, you literally have the choice to go, you know what? That would have been great fun, but I don't want to do that because it conflicts with my brand. All right. The team, you want to work with, there's this mentality, like I hear actors say, oh, my dream is to work with Robert De Niro, or my dream is to work with Martin Scorsese, or my dream is to work with, Viola Davis, right? Or someone might say Barbra Streisand. I want to work with Barbra Streisand, right? But so you want to work with a Robert De Niro, but you're working or could be working with the next Robert De Niro. This is team mentality. Team mentality. Look at where you are now and realize that Robert De Niro was not Robert De Niro when he came out. Viola Davis was not Viola Davis when she came out. But they work with a lot of the same people because they came up together. So if you give your time and effort to working with people in your industry at the same level as you, of course, make sure that the value set exists, that they're not just people kind of like waiting for it to happen, like they're motivated and adaptable, they execute, and they elevate, right? Because you could be working with the next Clint Eastwood, the next Viola Davis. Think about that as an entertainer. When you go to an acting class, if you're going to pay for it, or you go to a comedy class because you're going to pay for it, or you're working with other producers, or you're working with other writers, make friends with these people. Don't be in a class and be like, there's 10 people here. I'm just going to go in, work on my own craft. I'll work with someone in class, but as soon as class is done, I don't want anything to do with these other people. Or maybe you're just friends with 1 or 2 of the people. 1, 2 of 10. How about 8 of the 10 or 6 of the 10? Be smart about growing your team. Build and cultivate relationships. Okay, ideas. Things don't sell, brands sell. So think to yourself as an entertainer, what are you trying to say with your brand? What values are you adding? So I'm a writer. I make a living as a writer, right? So I write scripts for people hire me to write scripts. There's a certain way that I write, a certain way I use dialogue, a certain way I create action, a certain, or like if you hire me to edit your novel or edit your script, there's a certain way I'm going to look at it. That's my voice. But there's certain projects I won't take. If somebody wants me to write a project that, for example, I don't drink, do drugs, or smoke. I don't care if anyone else does, but as it goes with my brand, I'm not going to elevate it as a positive. So I'm not going to take on a project that is all about, how if you sell drugs, it's the greatest thing in the world. The reason Denzel Washington took American Gangster is because he wanted to show the rise and fall of that world and what it does to you, how it destroys you. And he even told the actual guy, because the guy was on set, the guy got out of prison. He told him, he goes, I just want you to know I'm not doing this to glorify your life. I'm doing this because I believe it's a great lesson for people in my community to say it's easy money, but it's also an easy fall. Like the fall is hard and hits, and this is not what I want. So think of what you do as in what you want to say and how you want to say it. All right. When I do comedy, if you obviously you're watching, when I do my comedy, I talk about very specific things. Like I'm trying. I act as like a naive character, like I'm playing a character, but I'm trying to twist the way we look at things. I'm trying to allow people to say, all right, well, maybe why don't people talk about this kind of stuff? So I'm going to just talk about it, and I want people to hear how ridiculous a lot of the stuff sounds when you say it, right? The naivete. So allow your ideas to say something. Allow your brand to be involved in it. When I get asked to direct stuff, there's a way that I direct, the way that I look, the way that I visualize things, right? I don't have to direct and say, how do I get a Martin Scorsese shot? No, I'll direct how I want to. This is how I see it. I want it to be seen that way. You have to remember, as an entertainer, you have to understand what are you trying to say with what it is you do. Even if you're an actor, a comedian, a writer, whatever, there's certain things. Don't say what's already being said. Use your voice. Allow your visuals to be shown. Okay. And finally, timing. Remember these three things with timing. Money equals mobility, teams equal opportunity, and brand equals connection. So we've talked about all these things. Timing is only valuable when you have the money that allows you to say yes to things. Teams equals opportunity, because the more people you know and the more value sets you build with these people, the more they think of you to do what it is they're working on. They go, oh, you know who we could get to work on this? X, Y, and Z. And your brand equals connection, emotional connection. We connect emotionally with people and brands. So your brand equals connection. So the timing is, what is it you're saying that somebody literally needs, which is over here, So being able to say, is what you have to offer ready to be received by your audience? There you go. All right. So please rewatch this video. If you have questions after rewatching it, just pop them in the comments below and I will answer them at a later date or maybe even another video. Like, comment, and share on this video. Please subscribe for future content on how to be successful in entertainment. We go over how to network and build and cultivate relationships, how to develop a brand that establishes ultimately building awareness, which creates interest, that ultimately generates sales. We talk about enhancing your talents and how to work on your strengths and weaknesses. What do you bring onto the table? Talk about management of time, money, and the people around you, which is basically this, right? And of course, how to use your entrepreneurial brain, which is what today's video is about, all about your entrepreneurial brain, thinking outside the box to find solutions. And then Wednesdays are a craft day. That's when we go over anything from writing stuff to music to comedy to whatever. All right, that's it. Thomas J. Beleza. Always happy to be here. I'll see you next time. Peace and harmony. And remember, work, grow, and rise together. Bye-bye.